Hello and welcome back to the Triangle Business Podcast. This is episode 3, and I'm one of your co-stars, Joey Nattel, followed by
I'm Scott Moore. Happy to
welcome
be
to the
here.
show, everybody. Oh, today we're going to be talking about a very important topic that everybody faces that some people don't talk about, at least maybe in public, which is some of the biggest roadblocks that get in people's way when it comes to their business. So, Scott, you are the expert on this in a lot of ways. So, when you think of that, what comes to mind for you?
Well, in the years I've been doing this, I've boiled it down to like one sort of common denominator is the most common thing,
Mhm.
and it's isolation. And
Yeah.
I think that comes in a lot of different forms.
Mhm.
Um, but I always found it hilarious, right? Like if you go to a networking event that has small business owners there, and
Mhm.
you like walk around for half an hour shaking people's hands and handing out business cards, and you say, "How's business?" What do they say?
Oh, good. Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah.
It's good. Hanging in there, rolling
Yeah.
along. Yeah, we're it's not like statistically it is extremely unlikely that everybody that says their business is doing great is doing great.
Mhm.
But they don't know how to talk about what's not so great right now, or they're like, well, nobody wants to hear about how it's not great.
Yeah.
And, I'm not going to tell people it's not great, because if I tell them it's not great, they may not want to do business with me.
Yeah.
And I
Very true.
understand that, like, maybe the people in that room haven't earned the right to your vulnerability about it, but like
Mhm.
somebody better,
Yes.
like, you better be talking to somebody about it. So, I mean, and as a coach, like, I'm one of those somebodies that people do talk to about when they're where their business is not great. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's the single common denominator of all that. And there's a lot of other more
Yeah.
specific things that crop up as well. But
It's so true. I think about this concept of it makes me think of this book I was reading called Helping. And it's for our listeners, it's an interesting topic. It's relevant to our conversation only mostly for this piece about a lot of people are afraid to lose face in a lot of ways. And so sometimes, not sometimes, most of the time, when people admit vulnerability, they may be perceived as weak or less than, or I don't have my stuff together. Essentially what you said, Scott. And so, and like you said, their ultimate fear is they might not want to do business with me because I don't have it together. But obviously we know, and if you don't know, here's a news flash, is nobody has it together. Some people might have it more together than others. And sure, somebody might be at level 30 and you might be at level 10, but they have other challenges that you don't know about in a lot of ways.
yeah,
So, and
well, I mean, like, having it all together, I don't even know that that should be a goal in
yeah,
small business.
yeah.
Like, one of my all-time favorite quotes that I love is, uh, if you have it all under control, you're going way too slow. And that quote is by Mario Andretti,
Uh-huh.
who, if you're not somebody my age who knows that name, he is a Formula One race car driver,
Ah,
right?
I
So
see.
if you have it all under control, you're going way too slow. It was like he's out there, was flying by the seat of his pants, fairly literally,
Yeah.
whipping around, racetracks and streets and stuff. And if he was going at a speed where he knew he could make every turn perfectly or whatever, then he great. It'll be really safe and he'll lose every race.
Yes.
So I'm a
Yeah.
big believer in the idea that small business only has one advantage over big business, and it's speed of execution. And
Mm.
we squander it by wanting to make sure that it's all going to be perfect, or it's all going to be just the way we thought it was going to be.
Speed of execution. That's true. Yeah, that makes sense. What do you you may have already said it, but I'm asking anyway. What do you feel like gets in the way of the execution?
Well, a lot of times, people just they want to be sure that it's going to work out.
Yeah.
And it's funny because you and I were kind of talking about this before we started recording. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, well, then that's simple. Don't start a business. You want
Yes.
to be
Yeah.
sure it's going to work out.
Yeah.
Don't start a business.
Don't.
Um,
Yeah.
but people they want to know that like the choices that they're making are going to lead to outcomes that they're happy with.
Hmm.
And again, if I if I had a crystal ball that told me that, then I would charge a hell of a lot more for what I do. But I'm always just like, let's just try something and see.
Yeah.
Let's try it and see what happens. Like very rarely, are you like jumping out of an airplane?
Yes.
Like I always, I jokingly say when I do speaking engagements sometimes, like, is anybody in the room a professional skydiver or a brain surgeon?
Yeah.
Because if you're one of those two things, I think you want to be pretty close to perfect every time you do the thing.
Yes. Yes.
So, you know, but most of the time you're making decisions that it's like, well, we did it. It wasn't
Hmm.
perfect. We
Hmm.
made adjustments. We try
Hmm.
again. We scrap the whole idea and do something different. Like there's loads of options, but people spend a lot of time trying to make sure, it's perfect. And again, it's back to the isolation thing though. If they don't have somebody to bounce the idea off of who is equally yoked in the
Hmm.
business, then they're going to probably move a lot slower. Like not everybody processes verbally and needs to talk it out, but
Yes.
like almost everybody needs some mechanism to examine the idea.
Hmm.
And if it's not with another person, at least type it all out, leave it in the folder for a week and reread it.
Yeah.
One of the other big roadblocks is a thing that I sort of jokingly call like entrepreneurial ADD, where
Yes.
whatever people are the most excited about becomes the thing that they want to execute about.
Hmm.
And I'm like, look, I'm a huge believer that I think the quote from Einstein is like every expression of greatness is an expression of enthusiasm or something like that.
Yeah. Sounds about
Um,
right.
and so you want to do things you're excited about,
Yeah.
but maybe also follow the plan.
Yes.
At least follow it until you get a result that would allow you to re-envision the plan. Yeah, I often when a client says I've got this cool new idea, I'm like, tell me about it, and
Yeah.
they tell me about it, and I was like, you know what I think we should do? I think we should put it in the cool ideas folder. And they're like, is that the garbage can? And I'm like, no, it's like literally we'll make a cool ideas folder, like make a Google Doc together and be like,
Yeah.
let's throw it in there. Let's continue executing what we'd already planned. And when
Hmm.
we get to the end of that cycle, which is maybe as soon as a month, but probably, maybe could be 2 or 3 months before we get to the end of what we're currently planning. And then we're
Mm.
like, let's pull out the good ideas folder and look at those. And, half the time they're like, I said that, or I can't believe I ever thought that was a good idea.
Yeah.
And once in a while they're like, no, no, I still been itching to implement that. Let's add that to the next plan. So
I love that. The cool ideas folder. It's so true. Like I've heard it said another way called the shiny object syndrome.
mm, yeah.
Very true. Similar concept. I'm certainly guilty of that myself and going through those uphill battles as well. I
Well, let me interject one thing real quick about that.
Sure. Yeah, please.
If it sounds like I'm making like a value judgment about it, I am absolutely not. Like
Yeah.
if there is a diagnosable spectrum for ADD, and I'm sure there is to some degree, like
Yeah.
I am either just past the diagnosable mark or just short of the diagnosis. Like I am on the spectrum there, close to diagnosable ADD.
Oh, same.
And
I am definitely diagnosed.
30% of my clients are diagnosed ADD.
Really
Yeah.
interesting.
And it's almost always been like that. And like some of them clearly are, and just, you know, they don't have the diagnosis. Like people with that characteristic often gravitate towards the start of businesses.
Really
Oh, yeah.
interesting.
I think half the time it's because they're like, nobody else wants to work with me because I'm a bit all over the place.
Yeah.
Like I may be unhireable because of it. But I think it's because also, though, that they tend to not get super attached to any one way. They're
Yeah.
like, let's try this. Okay, let's try this.
Yeah.
And that's awesome right up until it's not, because
Yes.
we do have to get all the way through the execution of something so that we can get a result.
Yes, absolutely. I'm definitely diagnosed ADD, ADHD, I should say. And that is very true. I just got bored easy isn't the right word, but I'll speak of my own journey. Like some bigger sort of blocks. It's just like my experience with ADHD and the research and things that I've done, the books I've read, podcasts I've listened to, experts I've spoken to about it is that, I think about that the Colbier personality, is it personality test? Is that what we call it? Or assessment, you should
Sure.
say, for business.
Measures cognitive traits, but yeah.
Yeah, it's a great test. We give it out. It's awesome. Check it out if you haven't heard of it. But one of the things on there is like, I think it's quick start.
Yep.
I think it's the one that's quick start is where you're more likely, I think it's the higher you're more likely to start something, if I remember
Yeah.
correctly.
It's a measurement of, for, by the way, for anybody who's watching that hasn't met me or seen me since I got this, but like on my tattoo over here, my otherworld tattoo, my Colby scores are integrated into this
Really?
tattoo because I think they're that important in my life.
Yeah,
And
that's cool.
yeah, I'm a 7 quick start. So
Hmm.
it's sort of like not the top end, but it's towards the top end.
Yeah,
And it's a measurement of how comfortable are people with risk and uncertainty
right. Yeah,
and change. Yeah.
yeah. And at least I'll speak on my experience being ADHD is like I'm a high quick start too. I think I'm a 7 as well, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember off the top of my head. But starting things is really easy for me. Sticking with it is another challenge entirely.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting that you've experienced mostly or a high percentage, I should say, of clients being ADHD. Um,
Just
that's
to
true.
support what you're talking about, like integrating the Colby with that, the the kind of the catalyst event that got me into coaching that we think we talked about that on like episode 1.
Yeah, yeah.
There were 9 entrepreneurs in that mastermind group that
Okay.
weekend,
Yeah.
and 8 of them had 7 or higher quick starts.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
So,
crazy.
there was a high propensity towards people
Yeah.
who like generate a lot of ideas
Hmm.
and then, want to like execute on the new thing that they're excited about.
Interesting. So having I'll steal your word, propensity. That's a good one. For quick starting might get them started in the business, but what gets them, in your experience, holds them up is shiny object syndrome or just being excited about a lot of things. Like you said, isolation, maybe fear of vulnerability, I hear,
Yeah.
which, and you need to be with somebody, like you said, equally yoked. Could you expand on that? What do you mean by that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like a client of mine recently was talking about, she said it that way. And I was like, oh, I love that expression, like equally yoked,
Yeah.
right? Like it, you know, I feel like compelled to literally, like a yoke is like the thing that the horses are in that pulls the wagon,
Mm.
right? And so like if you're side by side with somebody and the yoke is on both of your shoulders,
Uh,
you're both pulling the wagon about the same.
oh,
Like
okay.
one person can't really get too far ahead of the other one because the yoke is on their shoulders. So
I see.
um
So it has nothing to
so
do with eggs.
No, not yolked. That's a
Oh,
whole other thing. Now you're making me
I
hungry because I
yeah.
have like egg salad in the fridge. Um, but and they're like there are businesses that are designed this way from the start, right? Like people have partnerships, but even that is tricky because you have somebody to bounce the ideas off of, and
Mhm,
both of you may agree on lots of things to do with the business, but you
mhm,
also may like hopefully you agree completely on where you're trying to get to,
mhm,
but you may disagree about how you get there.
mhm.
And one of the things that I found myself in this position a few times in my career is people are like, we need you here to break the ties.
Yes.
And that is a very fraught situation to be in because, like you may piss off one of the business partners if you side with the other person,
Mhm,
especially if you do it consistently. Oh, you always agree with their stuff. But I try not to even do that. I
mhm.
try to just facilitate their conversations. It's funny how we're just looking back on some of the topics we've already covered, like
Yeah.
communication in business. But
Right, right.
if you have a partner, or even like a key employee, you need to be able to communicate enough to like iron out that those rough spots.
Yeah.
And it also circling back to what we talked about earlier this episode, like if you there are more than one way to get there, like pick one, uh, pick a like we're gonna try this idea
Mhm,
for this long, and
mhm,
then assess results. And if there was another idea, what you could do is be like, okay, we tried A, now let's do B, and let's
mhm.
see what those results are. And then everybody gets to have their way.
Yeah.
But yeah, that like again, even though those situations can create a lot of blockage, like it's usually a good idea in formulating a business partnership to like either have one person go, I'm the 51% partner and you're the 49% partner, and if we do butt heads about something, I'm going to get to make the final call.
Mhm.
Or have different business, like compartmentalized business portions, like when it
Yeah.
comes to marketing and sales, you get your way. When it
Yes.
comes to production, I get my way, something like that.
Ah,
um,
interesting. That makes sense. It makes me think of a colleague of mine was talking about how they were dealing with a client, and I think they were doing like a brick and mortar building or something like that, and they were arguing about the color of the wallpaper, and they my colleague, he was, coaching them, being like, what are you doing here? Like, he essentially got them to like go higher, like get higher level, because they were in the weeds. And they're like, do y'all want to move this business forward, essentially? Like, yeah. I'm like, well, do you need to decide? Like, does the color of the wallpaper matter of this? Well, I guess not. They're very heated about that topic. They let it go, and I don't know what they settled on, honestly. But like, I like that it is important to have like a tiebreaker or a medium of that. That's very important. And that sounds like a very important roadblock for
yeah.
businesses. So,
Well, I mean, it
um,
all keeps coming back to just a few things, right? Like this is one of the reasons I say that people make this stuff more complicated than it needs to be sometimes. Like I get it, like industries are different, your market conditions are different, right? But
mhm,
the inability to choose A or B
mhm,
is just costing you time, and time that you could be executing on A or B
mhm,
and finding out the result, and then deciding we're going to keep doing A, but we're going to modify it, or nope, A didn't work that well, we're going to try B. Like the speed of execution part that we were talking about earlier is so
mhm,
important because time is money. And I'll tell you, I'll sort of segue a little bit into like another roadblock I see,
mhm.
and that is capital starvation.
Cool.
So what happens is if it takes you a long time to execute, especially if you're like just starting up a business,
Hmm.
and it may take a while for it to be profitable. Like that's
Hmm.
not groundbreaking information that it may take a while to be profitable. But if
Hmm.
it takes you too long to be profitable, what happens often is people, as soon as there's money, they're like, oh, thank God, I've worked so hard to finally generate some money. Let me suck all of that into my bank account to pay me back for all those weeks and months that I didn't take a paycheck.
Hmm.
And now the business just had all the capital sucked out of it, which means there's no money to spend on the growth of the business.
Hmm.
So figuring out how to like leave, be disciplined enough to like leave some money in the business so that you can
Hmm.
spend on marketing or spend on hiring that person that's going to help you do more production or
Hmm.
spend on your administrative stuff. Like those are all things that the money needs capital in order to do. And being starved
Hmm.
for capital is just another one of those roadblocks. I mean, every client I'm on board, I'm like, well, what's your budget for coaching? Because you know, I'm gonna get paid, but also like, what's your marketing budget? And I'm asking these things, and frequently
Hmm.
they're like, well, we just spend as little as we have to. I'm like, okay, well,
Uh-huh.
mega scarcity, but cool. I'll try to talk them out of that. So,
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, you said something very interesting there, and which will lead me to my last question here in a minute. But scarcity, would you say that is a major roadblock for people, or just some people? Scarcity mindset, I guess.
I mean, I'm a big believer in you're probably going to find whatever you're looking for. And if you
Okay.
get out of bed in the morning, like, you know, things are hard, money is tight, like we're not doing so hot, like you're going to find ways to make that story be true.
Mm.
Yeah, I think we've talked about this already on the podcast at least once, but like I think the two most human things to do in my experience are make up a story about everything and then
Hmm.
try to be right about your story. So if your story is a story of scarcity, you're going to see scarcity everywhere because you want to be right. Oh, look how hard it is. Look how bad the economy is.
Yeah.
You know, like the one that I remember experiencing a lot, like nobody wants to work. And I'm like, cool story, bro. I know lots of people who are looking for jobs, or I know lots of people who have just hired somebody.
Hmm.
Like, sure. I mean, if you have it like people don't want to work, then you're going to look at that one person that's living in their mom's basement or whatever and be like, see,
Yes.
that's your evidence because you want to be right.
Yeah, that's very true. We call this the reticulative activating system. Now that's a fancy way to put it, but the short way to put it is what you focus on is what you'll get more of,
Yeah.
essentially. So
I mean, a
I
lot of
like
people
that.
think like it's kind of woo woo, to be like, oh,
Yeah.
well, scarcity is just it's a mindset. And they're like, no, no, like there's literally like, interest rates are high and housing sales have slowed down. And I'm like, I understand, like we live in the real world,
Hmm.
but I think we shape a tremendous amount of, I mean, if there's one thing we are absolutely just drowning in right now, it's information.
Yes.
And so you have to pick the information that you're going to
Hmm.
listen to. And I guarantee you're picking whatever information makes your story right.
That's true. Drowning in information, starving for wisdom.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, very true. So, which leads me to another question, as I'll ask you. We'll wrap up with this as saying, what's one of the biggest roadblocks you faced in your own business personally? 'Cause I'm sure there's different stages and you can share whatever comes to mind.
Um, well, I mean, like, look, I always tell people, uh, I've learned almost everything in my business the hard way. And I also remind them like the hard way is like the second best way to learn almost anything.
Yeah.
So all the stuff we've talked about, like I've sat when I was first starting my coaching business, I have sat alone in my basement with nobody to talk to, beating myself up for not, having gotten that last sale. So that like you get isolation, you get scarcity, you get like, what am I going to do next time to make sure I get the sale? So
Mhm.
now we've got analysis paralysis, and I got to be perfect instead of
Yeah.
just getting
Yeah.
back out there. Like I've done every wrong thing I can think of. I've done it
Yeah.
in my businesses. And so like I'm not beating anybody up if they're like, yeah, well, these are the problems I'm having. I'm like, yeah, cool. Well, welcome to the club. Like we should probably have jackets. And
Yeah.
we can't afford the jackets though because
Yeah.
scarcity, right?
Yeah.
Um, so I mean, like those things. I think another thing, uh, I for a long time was calibrating my price point to what I needed to make, which is an extension of scarcity mindset. Like I have to have this much money to live.
Yeah.
So I better make sure that the aggregated amount of work that I do hits that mark.
Hmm.
And there's a thing I say pretty frequently. Like my kid, when she was younger, she did taekwondo,
Hmm.
and they would break boards. And one night, the taekwondo instructor was like, "Would any of the parents like to come up here and break a board?" And I was like, "Sure." And when I walked up to the board, I suddenly was like, I had one piece of knowledge about breaking a board that I heard like a dude say a long time ago.
Yeah.
And that was, don't punch the board, punch through the board.
Yes.
Because punching a board will hurt your hand,
Yes.
but punching through the board will break the board, and well, it won't hurt your hand.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm gonna like punch the floor. And like I went for it, and the board broke. And
Yeah.
the instructor was like, "You okay over there? Because like you really shattered that poor little board." Um, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm happy that I broke it." But like I think we treat our goals like that sometimes. Like I got to make this, so I'm like, you know, uh, uh, like it's a stretch to get to the thing I have to do. And
Yes.
so one of the mistakes I made was like setting my value at my level of need.
Hmm.
And instead, what I did was I was like really dug into like what value am I creating for my clients? Like look at the arc of their business. That's worth more than I was getting paid several years ago. And so I was
Hmm.
like, what about this? And they're like, oh, you're so worth that because our revenue has quadrupled in the time that we've been working with you the last couple of years. And so, of course, you're worth more.
Hmm.
And suddenly, like, I don't really worry about money that much anymore. Like, I don't really have like revenue goals each year. I just am like, I charge what I'm worth. And I don't, I mean, I shouldn't say I don't have goals. Like I have declarations, right? I'm like, I believe it's possible I might do this, but declarations are just like very aspirational. Like I think it
Yeah.
might be possible, but this year I do this much.
Yeah.
So,
That makes perfect sense. So your biggest challenge has been all of them.
I
Would you
mean,
say?
yeah, but again, I'll circle back to, again, I want to be right about it. So I'll land on this and say isolation, right? Like
Right.
the best thing I ever did for my business was get a coach,
Hmm.
because suddenly I had an outlet for all of the conversations that I wanted to have. And I
Hmm.
was pretending like there were people in my life who got it. And it's like, no shade on them, right? Like, I talk to my wife about what's going on in my business all the time,
Hmm.
but I don't expect her to care about it as much as I do, understand it at the level that I do.
Hmm.
Um, And you know, this is not like a you should hire me advertisement. Like this is just a, if you don't have somebody around you who cares as much about it as you do, you
Hmm.
got to go find somebody, because otherwise you'll clam up about it, especially on the bad days.
Yes, absolutely. I can definitely relate to that, especially in the past few weeks or so, having those tough times for sure. It makes me think of that
Mm-hmm.
idea that I appreciate you saying that because when I was reading books and motivation material before I started my business, and they would always say like the people who are going to talk you out of your dreams are the people that you love and are closest to you the most,
Mm.
friends and family or colleagues of some kind. Well, why would you want to do that? That sounds risky. That's a bad idea. Things like that. And if you believe them, you won't do anything. And so
Well, they
that's
probably care
also,
about you enough to not want you to get hurt.
well, yeah. I mean, there's
And
a good
we're in a
reason
risky
for it,
business, you know?
right? There's a good reason behind it too. So I'm not saying it's bad. I'm also saying that like what I've also experienced in my own business is not having colleagues or people who are maybe a couple steps ahead, a couple steps behind, or just kind of where you at. It is very isolating. And like I've even noticed that with some of my peers and friends in my own age, like I can't talk to them about those things. They don't understand it. And not that they try and they don't they have empathy, but they just like you said, not the yoke. How do I say it?
Equally yoked.
Equally yoked. Right.
Yoke, I think is.
YOKE. There we go. Now you know. I learned a new word today. So, any other final thoughts, remarks, or things you'd like to share with our audience today?
You know, like, look, if anybody's listening to this and they're like, yeah, like I don't have anybody to talk to, like, well, for sure, reach out to one of us. Like, you don't got to hire me to talk to you,
Yeah.
right? If you want me to talk to you every week, yeah, you're probably going to have to pay me. But like, I would much rather, like, even if it's just the start of a conversation about where do you go from here, just like phone a friend.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Talk to somebody.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Very true. Anyway, well, that concludes our episode 3. If you like this episode, please subscribe to wherever you listen to your podcast. And thanks for joining us. See you next time.